Today, we're going to talk about power and ethical leadership. This module will discuss French and Raven's bases for power underlying ethical leadership, emphasize fairness and consideration for those with no or less power, and then discuss the justice theories and desert theories. Psychologist Albert Bandura's work on self-efficacy explains how individuals view themselves in response to ethical dilemmas. Self-efficacy refers to a person's judgment of their ability to enact a performance. Self-efficacy refers to a person's judgment of their ability to act, that is, to organize and execute the performance of a particular type of skill or behavior. Baird combines this concept with outcome expectancy to show the different orientations people have when facing ethical problems. Importantly, her model recognizes research that holds that high self-efficacy is positively related to accurate assessments of the world around us. By extension, through learning the right questions to ask to gain an accurate picture of our world, that is, by taking multiple perspectives and combining this with our business knowledge, we can enhance self-efficacy with respect to finding integrative, creative solutions to ethical problems. Outcome expectancy is the belief that something could be done in a situation. In other words, that behavior can influence outcomes. Self-efficacy is your belief that you have the power and ability to act in the situation. Those with high self-efficacy are more motivated and proactive in the choices that they make versus those with low self-efficacy who do not believe that they have the power to make effective decisions. People who believe that something can be done, in other words, they have high outcomes expectancy, and believe that they have the power and ability, in other words, they have high self-efficacy, are actually motivated to do something and feel more satisfied with their efforts and end up feeling more satisfied with their lives in general. Alternatively, people with low outcomes expectancy but high self-efficacy will often engage in protest and social activism. They believe in their own power and ability, but not that their actions can change the situation. People who believe that action could change the situation, in other words, they have high outcome expectancy, but don't have any confidence in their power or ability, tend to become despondent and depressed. And people who don't think the situation can be changed, in other words, they have low outcome expectancy, and also don't have any confidence in their power or ability, just resign themselves to the status quo. For example, there may have been a good person who was a government official in Nazi Germany who did not believe that the situation could be changed or that they had any power, so they felt resigned and focused only on their tiny piece of the task because it was easier than questioning how their actions affected the greater good. You can see how this could be an ethical problem. So self-efficacy is just perception, belief in your power. And everybody has some kind of power, regardless of whether or not they believe they have that power. But it is harder to act and get people to act if they do not believe, if they do not perceive that they do, in fact, have some power. So part of what social marketers must do is get people to feel that they can make that change and that that change will, in fact, help the situation. So we need to move people to the high outcomes expectancy and high self-efficacy quadrant so that they will take action. John R.P. French and Bertram Raven in The Bases of Social Power distinguish 5 types of power. Some of these are self-explanatory, like reward power and coercive power. Legitimate power stems from holding an office that is acknowledged to convey rights of decision-making over others. In other words, some kind of authority. Expert power stems from possession of a limited skill or ability or access to scarce knowledge. And referent power, or the ability of one person to influence others because of the latter's degree of identification with the former. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. For instance, it omits information power, which is the power stemming from control of a strategic channel of communication or a source of information. According to French and Raven, power must be distinguished from influence in the following way. Power is that state of affairs which holds in a given relationship, such that a given influence attempt by person A over person B makes the change that person A desires in B more likely. Conceived this way, power is fundamentally relative. It depends on the specific understandings that person A and person B each apply to their relationship. And interestingly, it requires person B's recognition of a quality in person A, which would motivate person B to change in the way that A intends. Person A must draw on the base or combination of bases of power appropriate to their relationship to affect the desired outcome. Drawing on the wrong power base can have unintentional effects, including a reduction in person A's own power. So we can use these bases of power to affect change in social marketing relationships as well. All right, let's describe these bases of power in a little bit more detail to help you really understand them. Positional or legitimate power is the power that an individual has because of their relative position and duties as the holder of the position within an organization. For example, your position in a society or in a hierarchy. So legitimate power is a formal authority delegated to the holder of the position. It's usually accompanied by various attributes of power, such as titles, uniforms, offices. This is the most obvious and also the most important kind of power, and it's used in day-to-day business. Although legitimate power increases with added responsibilities, you can decrease that power if you fail to meet all of your responsibilities. To increase your own legitimate power, take on additional responsibilities. At first, your boss will be glad to have the help, but in time, your boss should begin to view those responsibilities as yours and formally delegate additional authority to you. That would increase your legitimate power without diminishing your boss's power, because your boss was the one who delegated that authority to you. Now, to maintain your legitimate power when a subordinate wishes to assume some of your responsibilities, well, formally delegate those responsibilities to the subordinate. That makes the subordinate accountable to you. You then increase the subordinate's power while retaining your own legitimate power. Now let's talk about reward power. Reward power depends on the ability of the power wielder to confer valued material rewards. It's the degree to which a person can give rewards to others of some kind, such as benefits, time off, desired gifts, promotions, increases in pay or responsibility. Now, this power is obvious, but also ineffectual if abused. People who abuse reward power can be seen as pushy or to be reprimanded for being too forthcoming or seen as moving things too quickly. People also don't like to be bribed. And if they see you're using your reward power as an obvious bribe to get them to do something, that's actually a kind of a weak position to be in, because without the bribe, you couldn't affect the change you want. Coercive power results from the expectation of a punishment, demotion, or withheld reward if one's instructions and wishes are not obeyed. The desire for valued rewards or the fear of having them withheld that ensures the obedience of those under power. Coercive power tends to be the most obvious, but the least effective form of power, as it builds resentment and resistance from the people who experience it. Coercive power works, but it's not the preferred method of leading change. It works best when all else fails, but you have to feel sure that you can carry through with the threat. Otherwise, you're going to weaken your coercive power in the future. Now let's talk about expert power. Expert power is an individual's power deriving from the skills or expertise of that person and the organization's need for those skills and expertise. Unlike the other types of power, this type of power is usually highly specific and limited to a particular area in which the expert has been trained or is qualified. You have expert power because others regard you as an expert in a specific area. Subordinates may also have this type of power. You don't have to be the boss to wield expert power. Now, when expert power is combined with other types of power, it's an effective tool in influencing others. However, when used by itself, its effectiveness is limited. Referent power is the power or ability of individuals to attract others and build loyalty. It's based on the charisma and interpersonal skills of the power holder. A person may be admired because of a specific personal trait, and this admiration creates the opportunity for interpersonal influence. Here, the person under power desires to identify with those personal qualities and gain satisfaction from being accepted as a follower. Nationalism and patriotism count toward an intangible sort of referent power. For example, soldiers fight in wars to defend the honor of their country. This is the second least obvious type of power, but it's the most effective. Advertisers have long used the referent power of celebrities and sports figures for product endorsements, for example. The charismatic appeal of stars supposedly leads to an acceptance of the endorsement, although the individual may have little real credibility outside the entertainment world or the sports arena. Another example, a teenage girl might use information from a social media influencer as the basis for behavior, brand choices, etc. Finally, let's talk about information power. Information power depends on your giving or withholding of information or having knowledge that others do not have.